The federal government of Nigeria obtained credit from the International Development Association towards financing the public sector governance reform and development project in Kogi State in 2012. The approval for the credit came after the World Bank conducted a Public Expenditure Management and Financial Accountability Review, PEMFA, in March 2009. The report revealed some obvious weaknesses in the state public financial management system. The areas of these weaknesses include weak credibility in planning and budget preparation and execution, poor revenue generation, poor public procurement procedure, very weak financial recording and reporting system, weak in both internal and external audit function, weak legislative oversight function, poor management of payroll and nominal roll, low human capacity development system, as well as the lack of viral monitoring and evaluation system in the state, among others. After all the stark revelations, the intervention of the World Bank became very apparent. It is no wonder then that the public sector governance reform and development came on board in 2012 after its disclosure by the then state administration in 2009. That the public sector reform and development project has since inception focused attention on the public service stems from the fact that the public service is the machinery of government. The public service is the omnibus phrase for describing the administrative instrument of governance in Nigeria and in any part of the world. Public service has passed down the ages up till the present-day Nigeria and especially Kogi State. The public sector governance reform project has been anchored to see Kogi State emerge as a good model of governance and transformed among the committee of top-ranking states in the country, where opportunities abound for all. Furthermore, the project places great premium on the enactment of the best practices for running a transparent and accountable government, and to support the emergence of a strong economic base and promote effective service delivery, so as to provide good quality life for all and sundry. There are three core reform components through which the public sector governance reform and development project operate. The components are public financial management reform, human resource management and capacity development, monitoring and evaluation system M&E. The public financial management, which is the major component of the project, is subdivided into the following: public finance legislation, reforms of budget and execution, accounting, expenditure and financial reporting, external and internal audit reform, tax administration reform, State Integrated Financial Management Information System, public procurement reform. Public financial management aims at developing and modernizing the public financial management systems of the participating ministries, departments, and agencies. It is located in the Ministry of Finance. Before the inception of the public sector governance reform project, there was no enabling law guiding the financial transaction of the state. Federal legislations have provided the legal framework for public finance management, but only to some extent. The Director, Debt Management Office, Mr. Matthew Abuka, who doubles as the focal officer, noted that the need for a law to guide the financial management of the state became more apparent with the coming of the reform project.
Since the creation of the state, there have not been in existence public finance law. And what we have been doing, we borrow financial instruction from Benue, Kwara, and sometimes from Federal. And some of these financial instruments we use have a lot of inadequacies. And many of them are also, the content are also outdated. So there is a new need for review and to enact our own law to have a financial instrument that could guide the operators on the management of public finance.
One of the attributes of the project is the provision of office equipment, vehicles, furniture, computers and accessories, photocopiers, camcorders and generators, among others, to the various MDAs and particularly the Ministry of Finance. The gesture of providing conducive working environments for workers has greatly enhanced their productive capacity. Before this time, most of the equipment in use at the various ministries and indeed the Ministry of Finance were inherited from the older states of Benue and Kwara, out of which Kogi State was created more than 2 decades ago.
The furniture we have been using before were so obsolete. They were the furnitures that we inherited from Kwara and Benue. And so dilapidated that is an eyesore whenever you enter our offices. But since the supply, we have supply of furniture, we have conducive working environment. And with the AC, and the office is now more conducive. So it has enhanced the performance, the output of our staff.
The permanent secretary in the ministry, Dr. Esther Owotunse, whose office has been tastily furnished by the project, proudly noted that the project has impacted greatly on the operations of the ministry and other MDAs.
Talking about this sector, the public sector governance reform and development in the states, it has been a very valuable program in the states. Not only for Ministry of Finance, for the entire state. All the ministries, all the MDAs, the parastatals, we are all having the reform truly from this body. And I really want to thank God for even the selection of the kind of human resource segment we have there. They are all ready to work and they have been working. And in terms of provision, even for the ministries and the MDAs, we gain enormously. Is it in terms of vehicles that we want to talk of? Is it infrastructures, tables, chairs, furnitures, all over? Computer sets. In fact, they have turned the whole system from the archaic and obsolete system to a modern and digital world.
Over the years, budgets in Kogi State were not guided by clear development strategies, even though the state developed her Economic Empowerment Strategy COSEEDS in 2005. The state's sector plans were either partially costed or not costed at all. It is very clear from records that Kogi State was not generating up to 10% of its total revenue from internally generated revenue IGR in the previous years. This is against the backdrop of unrealistic budget preparation and execution. Only last year, Kogi State government decided to adopt the preparation of the multi-year budget framework document for the first time as part of the movement towards a comprehensive medium-term expenditure framework. This was facilitated by Kogi State Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project. This is the first draft of the document, and it covers 2017 to 2019. It is important to note that the economic and fiscal update of the document provides economic and fiscal analysis which form the basis for budget planning process.
I know by the time our 2017 budget is out, by the grace of God, Kogi will also know the difference between what we have been having before and what we are going to be showing out in 2017, and that is to say that the training they have received has helped tremendously in improving their capacity to deliver what I call people's budgets. So it is a welcome. In fact, we still encourage them to help us train them more, because like training is a continuous process. We continue to learn until we die. So it is important that they still continue to focus on budget reform, so that we can still achieve better results. So that at the end of the day, Kogi State will be rated as one of the best.
The budget document also provides an assessment of budget performance, both historical and current, and identifies significant factors affecting implementation. The multi-year budget framework has a budget calendar, while the economic update is taken from what is happening globally. Accounting expenditure control and financial reporting is for improvement in accounting standards. This component is one of the three located in the Office of the Accountant General of Kogi State. Ibito Igbadebo is the focal officer. The new accounting system is serving as an antidote against corruption as it seeks to promote openness and transparency in the conduct of government business.
The major objective of this component is to provide a system of accounting that will reflect accurately, with recognized accounting standards, the transaction flows of state government for the year. This instrument, that means the financial statement, will serve as a key instrument for government to formulate and implement its policies. One of the objectives also is to overhaul the existing accounting processes in the Office of the Accountant General, especially the commitment control, approval, and authorization. And thirdly is to strengthen the cash management system of the state.
A number of items, such as camcorders and desktop computers, have been received by the department, while the staff have enjoyed training programs organized locally and nationally. The items provided have created an enabling environment for the staff to perform their duties effectively.
Relationship has been very cordial. So I was saying earlier, we have received a couple of items, material from the project office. Aside from this, we have equally benefited from the training program organized by the sector. One particularly is that of JKK on IPSAS, International Public Accounting Standard. This is a new accounting standard that every state is employed to key in. So the project has created the necessary impetus for us to key into this project, and we have been benefited from training on this IPSAS locally and internationally. Another benefit we have is that some of these items provided for us has created that enabling environment for us to perform our duties effectively in the office. The area of computer, for instance, virtually all the officers we have in the Office of the Accountant General has desktop on their table. This has helped in their performing their daily duties.
The financial statement for 2013 was ready as at when due because of the provision of the vital facilities needed for the office to function. The external audit reforms is designed to strengthen both internal and external audit and oversight role of the State House of Assembly. The external audit subcomponent covers the Office of the State Auditor General. Stephen Idachaba, Director Audit, is the focal officer. It is not an overstatement that the State Audit Department operated under very harsh environment in the past.
Ever before this time, we had no equipment that will help us in the conduct of the audit. You know, the world is globalizing, and we are moving at the speed, which is electronic speed, and all along we never had the necessary equipment that will help us in the conduct of the audit, particularly the computer sets, the generators that will help us in facilitating our processing of our reports, vehicles. But with the coming of this project and considering the Office of the State Auditor General for the reform, we have had it so good because, one, the project has helped us in the area of training. I want to tell you that when, as part of what we benefited, we engaged the services of an external consultant, this is Mrs. Cowater International of Canada. They came and gave us a series of trainings which will help us, which is helping us now in the conduct of our audit. And I can assure you that since we received the program, the training, we have improved in their performances. Our reports we generate now with fast speed, and the quality of the report we turn out now is something comparable internationally.
There is a great difference with the coming of Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project. The Office of the Auditor General has received series of trainings and office equipment that is helping the staff to operate in leaps and bounds.
Ever before this time, we were applying laws from various quarters, outdated and archaic ones. But we now have an audit bill, which is already presented to the ESCO. The ESCO has already gone through, and it was forwarded to the House of Assembly for debate and passage. This is the process. Apart from that, we also had a reform of the restructuring program of our office. Then the other aspect are the equipments. I told you we had a Hilux van, which is being used in the Office of the Auditor General. Also, we know in order to enhance the accomplishment of the audit, we do not conduct audit and then leave the report to just stay on the desk. We send at the end of the day our report to the House of Assembly. And in order to help them in the performance of their duties in conducting their oversight functions, the Auditor General's Office, through this focal unit, have been able to acquire a Hilux van also for the Public Accounts Committee of the House.
Among the success stories of the external audit component is the audit law, which has been developed and will eventually create room for the restructuring of the state audit for maximum performance. Both the external and internal audit reform were strengthened to track government transactions. Cowater International of Canada handled the system reform of the subcomponent. The internal audit reform is located in the Office of the Accountant General. Since inception, the Public Sector Reform and Development Project has not shirked in its responsibilities to this component. Prior to the reform, many things were grounded in the Internal Audit Department of the Office of the Accountant General. Ezekiel Akubo, focal officer, who is also the acting director, noted that there were only a few hands doing the audit job at the time.
Before the inception of the reform, we had less than 50 internal auditors spread across over 70 MDAs in the state, and this number compared to the MDAs was grossly inadequate. But with the reform today, I can proudly say that we have over 100 internal auditors with us in the Office of the State Accountant General. Before the reform too, we came to realize that the internal audit structure of the Office of the Accountant General was not well defined. With the reform now, we have an organized structure of internal audit.
In the past, the audit structure in the Office of the Accountant General was not well defined.
From training and workshops and all the seminars we have gone through, today we have been able to actually identify our operation and our activities, and they are no longer conflicting. Today we can say now that we are partners in progress as against the rivalry position that we were in initially.
With the failure of oil in the world market, the country is now faced with a downturn in the economy. Consequent upon this, revenue allocation to states have dropped drastically. Kogi State government has frontally risen to the challenge of employing the abundant natural endowment in the state to increase its internally generated revenue IGR to meet up with the challenges of governance. The Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project is on the driver's seat in the mobilization to create a conducive environment for unlocking the natural and human potentials of the state to make for increased revenue for the state. Pursuant to this objective, the Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project undertook a statewide tax survey and the development of an electronic database management system for tax administration. Executive Chairman of Kogi State Revenue Service, Alhaji Yakubu Osheni, noted that the project has been quite supportive of the efforts of Revenue Service in its revenue drive.
The project office has been supportive to the boards, and now that we are autonomous, we have autonomy now, and there are some projects that have been executed by project office to us. Like when I came on board, they gave us 4 Hilux motor and one 14-seater bus, and 40 motorcycles. They don't even stop at that. They have given us a 100 kVA generator. They have given us a lot of support. Training needs, computers, laptops, and in short, they have given us a hope that they are there for us.
So far, a 100 kVA generator, computers and laptops have been provided for awareness campaigns.
In Kogi State, tax awareness is very low before this administration came on board. And the project office has been supportive to the point that they prepare a very gigantic billboard, 50 in numbers, spread across, letter breadth of Kogi State, telling people the importance of paying taxes. If you pay your tax, what you stand to achieve, jingles, radio adverts and others, even paper, that is graphic, for example. They were everywhere educating people for us, that is the citizens of Kogi State, that paying tax is very important. And to the extent that at the point that we are now, we have started seeing that people on their own have started complying without enforcement.
People are now responding to the effective sensitization by the Revenue Service by coming out to pay their taxes without being cajoled. Between July and November 2016, revenue profile of the state increased astronomically by over 300%, as a result of the frantic efforts of the public sector reform project. The general attitude of workers to their responsibilities at the Internal Revenue Service have changed with the series of trainings that are being organized for them. Focal Officer Ibrahim Adams said the tax base has been broadened and modernized with the intervention of the Public Sector Governance Reform Project.
The essence of the project in the board is to identify what our activities, what we do for the state, and to see in the institutional gap that are there with a view to strengthen it to allow for optimal delivery of the service. And the aim and objective of the project, of the tax reform component of the project, is to increase IGR in a sustainable way, to broaden the tax base, and to modernize the tax administration system in the state. To a large extent, they have given a lot of support to this institution, the Kogi State Internal Revenue Service, from training. Having identified the training need and capacity gap in the board, they conducted a training need assessment and review of business process. They have assisted us with wireless internet connectivity to allow us function and come in a modern tax environment, where they installed a server for us. They equally have assisted the board because electricity is a problem in the state, and they have assisted us first with 10 kVA generator and later with a 100 kVA generator, which is already installed, and has assisted us to boost our working environment.
The wireless internet system provided for the Revenue Office has enhanced the performance of workers. There has also been a diagnostic study and training needs assessment of the Board of Internal Revenue. The State Integrated Financial Management Information System, SIFMIS, is another subcomponent under Public Finance Management System that is a front burner of the reform project. The office has been set up, furnished, and vehicles provided. The head of Project Financial Management Unit, who also doubles as project manager of SIFMIS, Aminu Ibrahim, spoke about the SIFMIS project.
In 2012, the Public Sector Governance Reform project commenced in earnest, and it has focused in so many areas. We have had to deal with touched Ministry of Finance, the Office of the Accountant General, the Office of the Auditor General, the Bureau for Internal Revenue, and SIFMIS itself. When you're discussing the Public Financial Management System, the PFM system, one major tool that have been very effective in that system is the deployment of IFMIS, Integrated Financial Management Information System. Now, which is, in Kogi State we call it SIFMIS, but in Kogi State we also call it Digital Brains. Brains standing for Budget Reform, Accounting Integration Network System. SIFMIS is a deployment of the hardware infrastructure and the software solution to solve financial management issues, which is going to address budget execution, monitoring, is going to address accounting, accounts payable, accounts receivable, is going to address the human resource through payroll, the general ledger. There is still a lot of gap, a wide divergence between the nominal role and the payroll. The nominal role happen to be the list of authentic civil servants, which should be the responsibility of the office of the head of service. The payroll should actually derive from the nominal role. Now, if you have a sound nominal role, in other words, the authentic civil servants as contained in the nominal role, if they are the one that translates to your payroll, then you would have succeeded in eliminating completely the issue of ghost workers.
More than 80% of the official facilities and vehicles in the various MDAs are provided by the Public Sector Governance Project. Organic laws have been put in place by the Public Sector Governance Reform Project since inception in the various MDAs to check the yawning gaps that have been responsible for lack of prudent management of resources in the state.
Public financial management is not just a problem in Kogi State, it's a problem in Nigeria because there are so many gaps. So the start point really would be to have all the organic laws in place, and the project has assisted in the promulgation and enactment of some of these organic laws, like the Public Procurement Act, which I think was signed into law about April 2012 or so. This aims at regulating public procurement of goods and services, including consultancy services in the government sector. Hitherto, what we're familiar with is the Ministerial Tenders Board and all of that, but with the adoption of the Public Procurement Act, a lot of transparency is brought into the procurement processes of the state government, and a bureau is in place that implements, that executes that law. The project has also tried to improve the capacity of the Public Accounts Committee of the House of Assembly. You will recall that the Public Account Committee of the House is actually in charge of receiving reports from the Auditor General's office in respect of every budget that has been done and implemented for the year. In other words, the financial statement of every previous year's transactions, as audited by the Office of the Auditor General, is sent to the PAC, Public Account Committee of the House of Assembly, that reviews it and issues query to anybody that has been found wanting in the course of administering the budget for that year. So the project is an all-encompassing project, as you would have discovered from the trend so far, that the executive is impacted, the legislature is also impacted.
Elijah Evenemi, focal officer of SIFMIS, is also the head of Central Accounts and acting director of Treasury, Office of the Accountant General. According to him, several workshops, seminars and study tours to Lagos and some other older states were undertaken with a view to understudying them. These activities have increased the output of staff.
As we speak, various components have kickstart and are doing very well in their various ministry. The public sector reform components that came up about over 3 years ago have sensitized so many departments, and training have been conducted for various implementers. Various civil service servants have been trained, both local and overseas training, and for now it has increased. For revenue generation, it has increased the revenue generation of the state, and for budget components, it has assisted the state in preparing the budget as it's expected to be, i.e. through the tools of medium-term expenditure framework, MTF and MTSS. So coming to accounting and expenditure, it has helped us in various ways in timely preparation of our financial statements. And even in internal audit components, many staff have been trained both within and outside the states, and they have keyed into the process of using the new audit tools and carrying out their activities in their various ministries.
Before the advent of the Kogi State Public Sector Governance Reforms and Development Project, What is now known as Bureau for Public Procurement was called Due Process Office, located at Government House, Lokoja. However, the public sector governance reform assisted in the establishment of the Bureau for Public Procurement at inception and advocated to the State Assembly, which passed the Public Procurement Law in 2014. Dr. Stella Adejo is the Director General, Bureau for Public Procurement in Kogi State.
The World Bank assisted public sector governance reform and development project has been assisting the Bureau long before, when it was the Bureau was then known as the Due Process Office. We came in contact with the development project, which led to further relationship with that office. The office has assisted the establishment of the Bureau. The Due Process Office has transited into what we now know as Bureau of Public Procurement with the establishment of the Public Procurement Law for Kogi State 2014. This wouldn't have been possible without the assistance of the Public Sector Governance and Reform Project, because they assisted in advocating and lobbying the State House of Assembly that eventually passed it into law, and then the Bureau was established. Apart from that, the Sector Reform Project assisted with the production of about 1,500 copies of the Public Procurement Law 2014 for the state, which we are now using.
The Public Sector Reform Project has also provided guides to complaints and resource mechanism and code of conduct for procurement officers. Similarly, there is a code of conduct for private professionals and non-governmental organizations involved in observing procurement and disposal proceedings and procurement planning templates. The Human Resource Management and Capacity Development component of the Public Sector Governance and Development Project is to provide targeted capacity building to public financial management related MDAs and to strengthen the training of personnel to ensure probity and accountability. The component is located in the Office of the Head of Service of Kogi State. Mrs. Hassanat Lawal is the Acting Head of Service.
A lot has been gained or acquired through them by the entire civil service, if I may say. Resource management. They have been of a very good supporter, because in line with the current administration, that is to restructure the civil service and the pension, the public sector has come in a way to collaborate with the state government to make sure that human resources is better developed and acquired by civil servants to give birth to what we want in the state, that is better public service delivery. Let's look at the area of training. What you don't have, you can give. And skill can only be given through training. Like the provision of vehicle has really helped us. They're giving computer to even my office, some MDAs, and especially the SDC, that is Staff Development Center. They have acquired so many aids. Computer has given to us. In most cases where we had no computer before, we now have. The former system of using this cardboard ancient that type of computer has been erased by the help of the public sector. So this state is a very, very lucky state to have been one of the pioneer states for this initial takeoff of public sector. The governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Yabilo, is equally very impressive, and he appreciates, because his own goal is to restructure the public service and the pension. And the goal of the public sector is to modernize and rebuild the public sector. You can see that we have the same goal. And to get this goal actualized, the His Excellency has, in his own wisdom, welcome them, receive them with his two hands.
One of the major tasks of the Public Sector Governance Reform Project is to assist the state in the structuring of the civil service and pension to achieve better service delivery. The Public Sector Governance Reform Project is enjoined not to relent in collaborating with government in the mobilization efforts of the various MDAs in the state to ensure that government succeeds in the tasks ahead. The acting head of service noted that the governor has taken public sector reform outfit as his pet project. The Monitoring and Evaluation Department is to support and improve the legal institutional framework for results-based monitoring and evaluation. It is also to assist in building institutional capacity for development outcomes. Since inception, the Public Sector Governance Reform Project has taken a keen interest on the monitoring and evaluation subcomponents. For example, the project sponsored a training program for the monitoring and evaluation component in May 2016 in Ghana. The program was to make the participants have practical experience and exposure on how best M&E is practiced in Ghana, to equip the team members on how to handle M&E in their various ministries on return. The Director Planning Macro, Mr. Ali Friday Jima, who doubles as the Acting Permanent Secretary, Budget and Planning, is the focal officer of the ministry.
Already, the World Bank has supported the state towards doing a diagnostic review of monitoring and evaluation in the state. During the review process, pilot MDAs were selected, including the Ministry of Budget and Planning and other public finance management offices like Accountant General, Auditor General, and the Office of the Head of Service. They were all studied, they were diagnosed. And during the diagnosis, the consultant, the leading consultant, went with some staff of the Ministry of Budget and Planning, supporting staff of the Ministry of Budget and Planning, to all the various agencies. In each of the agencies, they were able to find out what the status of monitoring and evaluation was at the time of the diagnosis. They were able to identify what was available and what was not available. The report of that diagnostic review came out, and they were able to suggest the way forward.
Training programs have been organized for staff of the monitoring and evaluation component, both within and outside the country.
Most of the staff in the various MIE units never knew exactly what monitoring and evaluation was before now. And apart from that, before that time, they took some of the documents that they used to print in the office to commercial centers. But now, with the computer printers and photocopiers that are in their offices, they can do this one directly. That is also helping them to secure government official documents.
One of the areas of attention of the public sector governance reform since inception in 2012 is the Kogi State Civil Service Commission. The project has indeed added value to the commission, as it has been able to reduce some obvious problems of the commission since the creation of the state. The chairman of the commission is Alhaji Ado Shaibu.
One of our major challenge is lack of data. 2, we don't even have electricity. that we power all our activities here in the Commission. What we have is a 10 kV, which was also being given by the public sector. That is the public sector good governance. Because we are not actually connected to the national grid. That's also a challenge. Thirdly, we also have the issue of lack of a vehicle, in terms of movement. We don't have the mobility or vehicle to move us around. Part of also the problem we have in the Commission. And then, of course, some other issues that are also pending, which we decided to take up with government when we came in. And then we also have to look at the issue of capacity building, which also we know is also lacking in the civil service. But good enough, we made the recommendations to government. We also wrote to the public sector with governance in these areas to see how they can intervene. But today, I am proud to say that the public sector has positively added value today to the Civil Service Commission. They have also been able to reduce some of our problems and also have assisted greatly in ensuring that we come up the best, that we can stand the test of time.
100 kVA generator and other important office facilities have been provided for the Civil Service Commission.
One, the public sector good governance has been able to provide us with a new brand Hilux this year so as to add value to our operations. Two, they have also been able today to install 100 kVA genset to help to power the operations of the Commission. Thirdly, in the area of data, which I said earlier that was one of our major problems, they have also been able to provide us with computerization. They've been able to computerize the Commission today, which is ongoing, and very soon that is going to end. They are happy to computerize the Commission so that we can computerize the issues of ghost workers or tampering with documents are going to be a thing of the past.
The Staff Development Center, SDC, was established in 1998 to train middle cadre civil servants in Kogi State. The center is under the Office of the Head of Service, with Mrs. Olukminla Alice Modupe as the acting director. Much attention has been given to the center, with the provision of office facilities and teaching aids.
Most of the equipment we have before were old. They brought modern equipment. And most of the things we don't know about this internet and other things, it has even brought our students into limelight of what is happening in the communication world.
Since the executive governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Ayabelu, was sworn in a year ago, he has not hidden his friendly disposition towards the project because of the enormous achievements it has recorded. The governor has at one time or the other visited the project, not only to commission vehicles and other facilities before distribution to the relevant MDAs, but to commend the wonderful efforts of the management. He has identified the management's selfless commitment to entrench the culture of efficient service delivery and judicious application of funds in the state. Governor Bello has therefore assured that he would always remain supportive of the project.
Take my word for it that my administration will continue to fulfill its obligation to all World Bank and donor support projects. In the state of which we have signed up I urge the management of Kogi State public sector governance reform and development projects to continuously improve on their current good work by making sure the World Bank funds and supports are productively utilized.
The project coordinator of the World Bank Initiative, Ebenezer Olabayode, is assisted by other members of management. They are Malam Sani Haruna, Procurement Officer, Fabian Shuaibu, Communications Officer, Sunday Sain, Internal Auditor, Malam Hussein Salifu, Project Accountant, and Matthias Arokuyo, Administrative Officer. On the whole, 27 Hilux vans, 4 buses, and 60 motorcycles, among other facilities, have been distributed to various MDAs.
So far, so good. We give glory to God. We have made a modest progress. We have been able to support the state in restructuring most of the MDAs, like the offices of Accountant General, Auditors General. We have also made the offices more conducive for work with the provision of office equipment, tools that they will need to work with.
Kogi State Government, through the public sector governance reform, has taken bold steps in getting some laws in place as part of efforts to ensure prudence and transparency in the management of public funds. Some of the laws are readily available, while others are in draft form. They are Kogi State Fiscal Responsibility Law 2012, Kogi State Revenue Administration Law 2013, Kogi State Public Procurement Law 2014, Kogi State Public Finance Management Law 2015 in draft, Kogi State Financial Instruction 2015 in draft, and Kogi State Audit Law 2015 also in draft. Going by the impressive record of performance of the pilot MDAs, more MDAs will be brought in as part of efforts to support the government in its transformation drive.
We have identified 5 key spending ministries. Ministry of Agric is also one of them. These are ministries that we have identified that are taking up to 80% of the state's budget. We are supporting them in the area of M&E to ensure that we are able to track government business and to ensure that the monies that government is putting in those ministries are properly utilized.
The wonderful achievement of the public sector reform project has been made possible because His Excellency, Governor Bello, has thrown his weight behind the project by providing support and attention.
We have been able to achieve what people say we have achieved now because of the support and commitment of His Excellency, Alhaji Yahya Adoza Bello, because he's very committed to this project. He has provided funds to ensure that most of the things that we have set out to do, we're able to do them. He has made his office open for us at all times, that we're able to access him to ensure that we get things done on time.
I speak as a civil servant. What is happening through the public sector governance reform and development project is a new phase, and I'm privileged because everywhere has been transformed. If you go to the offices, you'll be amazed. New things that is happening in the offices. We have new modern equipments in the office. There is training for almost everyone, and there are great things that are just happening through the public sector governance reform and development project.
Thank you very much. My name is Chief Salau. I'm a civil society person and a commentator on public affairs. Actually, the public sector governance reforms development projects in the state has made a very tremendous positive impact on the lives of the people here, especially the civil service. When you want to especially talk about the tax reforms that was facilitated by the projects, that's tremendously improved the internally generated revenue of the state, which will enable you not to go cap in hand or wait for federation accounts before they can meet the obligations to the citizens.
As Spanish author Miguel Cervantes once wrote, "The man who is prepared has the battle half won." Conrad Hilton supported this claim when he said, "Success seems to be connected with action." This implies that successful people do not rest on their oars, but must keep moving. The Public Sector Governance Reform and Development Project should move on until their present wonderful scorecard of good becomes better and the better becomes best.